This is Ian King Live with a special programme from Brent Cross Shopping Centre. The top stories. A rescue deal for Toys R Us, but 26 stores and hundreds of jobs are going. With 14 stores closing every day, we'll look at the future of retail and whether shopping centres like Brent Cross can survive. We'll be talking Christmas adverts and whether any of us can live up to the idealised image we see on television. And as we get ready to say goodbye to 2017, we'll look back on another tumultuous year in the world of business. Good evening and welcome to Ian King Live from Brent Cross in North London. Now, with a number of shopping days until Christmas ticking down, where better to come from our last show of the year? And we start with big retail news because Toys R Us has narrowly avoided becoming the latest big name to disappear. But the problems besetting the UK's biggest toy shop are another sign of trouble on the high street. Fraser Maud reports.
एक माँ की जिम्मेदारी होती है कि अपने बच्चों के लिए फैसला करे कि उसके लिए क्या अच्छा है और क्या बुरा, इसलिए मेरा फैसला है कोलगेट।
दांतों की हिफाजत के लिए सिर्फ और सिर्फ कोलगेट पे भरोसा करें। कोई और टूथपेस्ट यूज करूं, सवाल ही पैदा नहीं हो सकता। बच्चे कुछ भी खाते रहें, जब तक कोलगेट है तो मैं टेंशन फ्री रहती हूँ।
इनकी तरह करोड़ों माएं भरोसा करती हैं कोलगेट पर। इसका प्लस कैल्शियम फॉर्मूला दांतों को रखे मजबूत और कैविटी से महफूज।
कोलगेट पर 100% भरोसा है।
माँ का भरोसा डेंटिस्ट का तजवीज करता। कोलगेट।
In these negotiations, the Pensions Protection Fund has the right powers.
There's a magical place we're on our way there.
Having toys in their millions all under one roof was a benefit in the 80s and 90s, but the appeal of big out-of-town stores has been dwindling in recent years.
बैकडोर बात हो रही है, कामयाबी की तरफ जा रही है। कौन सा बैकडोर, कौन सी कामयाबी? भट्टी साहब भाई मेरी एक गुजारिश है कि मैंने बताया वो गंजे बख्श फैज़े आलम मज़हर नूरे खुदा नाकसारा पीर कामल कामला रहा रहनुमा, क्योंकि आपकी थोड़ा
online competition, and a quick internet search showed me a comparison of prices for these Christmas favourites. The Operation game, £2 cheaper online. Kaplunk, again £2 cheaper online. Jenga, £3 cheaper online. Buckaroo, £2 cheaper. And finally, Mousetrap, that old family favourite, £8 cheaper online. The company's defined salary staff pension scheme had a shortfall of around £30 million. To satisfy the Pension Protection Fund and avoid crashing into administration, Toys R Us had to find more than £9 million. Without today's deal, all the stores may have closed, with the loss of over 3,000 jobs. With the deal, there will still be closures, but potentially only 500 to 800 jobs could go. Shoppers at this store in Manchester, already earmarked for closure, gave their thoughts on today's news.
I think everyone does their Christmas shopping on Amazon, don't they? So I guess that's the reason.
It's a good one for the business in the area. That's good.
I went in the city, I couldn't find any toys anywhere, so I think one shop, yeah, it's great.
A statement from the Pensions Protection Fund says this offer goes a long way to addressing the PPF's concerns and in de-risking the pension scheme, offering greater protection for the current and retired members. The deal has now secured the short-term future of Toys R Us and hundreds of jobs, but clearly the company needs to build for the future to avoid another potential collapse. Fraser Maud, Sky News, Manchester.
Well, I'm joined now by Ashley Armstrong. She's retail editor at The Telegraph, and by Maya Knights from Planet Retail. Maya, how did Toys R Us get into this state?
I think we would describe the situation Toys R Us is facing as a lot of store space, a lot of floor space, and really declining sales in the face of internet, the growth of the internet.
And it's worth pointing out, this isn't just Toys R Us in the UK. The parent company in the US is in a dreadful state.
Yes, it is. So it filed for Chapter 22 earlier this year, and the news hitting the UK subsidiary today is the fallout from that.
So this rescue deal that's been announced today, well, a quarter of the staff are going to lose their jobs, a quarter of the stores are going to close. I mean, it's not unalloyed good news, is it?
No, but I guess it's a question of 800 versus 3,200. You know, it's really a deal that's based on the fact that this restructuring plan guarantees the survival of Toys R Us for a bit longer. If it doesn't work, then actually those 3,200 jobs will still be lost.
Yeah. And the Pension Protection Fund was after £9 million. They're getting 9.8, but over a longer period of time. John Rolfe, the independent pensions expert, said today the PPF blinked. Is that fair, do you think?
So it's not what the PPF wanted initially. They wanted 9 million in a lump sum, you know, good cash. I think that they'd even admit that they were being a bit ballsy trying to get that much. It is more than what Toys R Us were going to pay originally. It was 1.2 million next year, now they're getting 3.8 million. But it's still 3 million and 3 million staggered down the road, which still survives, relies on Toys R Us surviving.
Now, Maya, there's also a big question about this payment that went to an offshore entity in the BVI from Toys R Us UK. What do we know about that?
Very little. I think the fact that it's the BVI's, everybody's very, very suspicious about it. I think as the details of the deal that's been decided today come out, hopefully we'll find out a little bit more. But I think it shows that retailers' financial position, they really have to be doubling down from a fiduciary standpoint to make sure that they don't have these surprises hidden on their bank balances, on their bank sheets.
Right. I mean, it looks quite a complex situation, lots of intercompany loans going on.
Absolutely, there's something like 17 subsidiary companies for Toys R Us in the UK alone. That's excluding all the other kind of offshore Channel Island companies that they have. You know, the thing about Roger McLaughlin, the former chief executive, his pay increase was bumped up to 1 million.
Yes.
You know, for 2 years in a row, just as the company was still making operating losses. That wasn't known about until recently. So there's so much more to come. Yeah.
All right, Ashley Armstrong, My Nights. Thanks for now. We'll be speaking to you again later in the show. Well, Brent Cross Shopping Centre has a place in retail history. It's not overstating things to say that when this place opened, it changed people's lives. I've been looking at why.
We brought West End shopping to you. Come shopping the Brent Cross way.
The complete shopping experience. That's how they marketed Brent Cross when it opened in 1976.
The parking is easy right.
It was the first American-style shopping mall in Europe. For the first time, everything was under one roof, a revolutionary idea that transformed the way we shop.
The Brent Cross Shopping Centre, where the North Circular Road meets the Hendon Way.
I came here when it first opened. It's convenient to where I live, and it's convenient shopping and convenient parking. What more could you want?
I remember there were complaints that you couldn't buy a drink here, alcoholic drink, there were no pubs, etc. And that was a great sort of thing at the time, but I don't think anybody notices it now.
But will places like Brent Cross still exist in another 40 years? We're all still doing our shopping under one roof, but increasingly it's our own home. During the last 5 years, the value of online retail sales is £67 billion. Almost 1 in every £5 we spend is online. That's one of the reasons that 14 stores close in the UK every day, according to research by PwC.
Across the UK, we are seeing a decline in footfall. The impact on an individual high street or an individual shopping centre really depends on what investment has gone into that place to develop as something slightly different, as an experience. You know, are there restaurants, are there other things to do as well? And where there has been investment, actually you are seeing people go there to not only shop but do other things and have a day out as well.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come could show us a dismal future in which out-of-town shopping centres are filled with unrented stores and empty units.
Do you think centres like this have a future?
The future for shopping centres is good, and I think it's exciting because there'll be continual change. So the change that we've seen already will just go further, so it'll become more of a people place.
We do far more than shop when we go to the mall. Brent Cross has been the home of new jobs and blind dates, first kisses and family birthdays. They even filmed a Bond movie here. The chase scene in Tomorrow Never Dies was shot in the car park, and some lucky customers even got to meet Pierce Brosnan.
In America, fewer than half the 1,200 malls spread across the country are expected to be open 5 years from now. Nobody's predicting a closure rate like that here in the UK, but to survive, shopping centres are going to have to start offering more experiences that you can't get at home in your bedroom with an iPad.
They're investing £1.4 billion here in a regeneration project that includes a hotel, a cinema and 60 new restaurants. Not just the complete shopping experience, but the complete leisure experience.
And I'm joined now by David Atkins. He's Chief Executive of Hammerson, which is the UK's biggest shopping centre owner. And David, of course, you own Brent Cross, so thank you for having us here tonight.
My pleasure.
It was quite busy around here. How's it been in the run-up to Christmas?
It's been good as ever. It builds up over really from Black Friday onwards. And you look over the next 2 or 3 days, we're going to have about 200,000 people through the shopping centre. You know, people, particularly as you get right up to the wire in terms of purchasing for your Christmas gifts, increasingly brings people out, and tonight is a fairly standard, very busy, hectic, but overall positive evening.
So the big news concerning Hammerson, you've just announced plans to take over Into, which is one of your big rivals, sites like Meadowhall and Trafford Park in Manchester. What's the thinking behind the deal?
Well, we recognise, both companies, that we've got to continue to evolve our businesses. You know, no question, with the rise of online, we need to play to our strengths. And that's really about the relationships we have with retailers, but more than that, the offer and the experience we can provide to shoppers. So with this combined company, we'll have 80 retail locations across 14 European countries. That's 800 million visitors a year. It means we can go deeper with our programs, providing a bigger, better experience for the shopper.
And when you announced the deal, 1 or 2 cruel analysts said that this was like 2 drunks propping each other up at the bar. Are you doing this out of a position of strength or weakness?
No, I look at it as, maybe not myself, but a couple of young teenagers getting together, looking to the future with real, positive sense of what we can do together. So this is not a defensive move. It is about what we can achieve stronger together and offer particularly to our shoppers and retailers.
And yet days after you announced your big deal, Westfield, which is a huge Australian multinational shopping centre operator run by Frank Lowy, who's the sort of godfather of shopping centres, announced that they were selling out. So I mean, what sort of message does that send about confidence in the sector?
Well, again, I think of it the other way round. I think about Unibail-Rodamco, who are the buyer, taking a bigger step across Europe, but particularly into America. So ultimately the rationale is exactly the same, and if you look at the playbooks from both companies, we're talking about how we can provide better relationships with our retailers that ultimately provides value for them and us, but importantly a better experience for the shoppers. So I think, amazing it happened in the same week, incredible, but really the rationale exactly the same behind both deals.
I mean, you're investing something like £1.4 billion here at Brent Cross alone. I mean, it's a bit like painting the Forth Bridge, isn't it, making sure these centres are fit for purpose?
Well, there's an element of that. I mean, Brent Cross is 41 years old, so we felt it had to step into the sort of next decade or two and be a thriving retail location for another 40 years. So we're very excited about that. But remember, a lot of the refurbishment work and the change comes with the retailers that we offer. You come here month on month, there's someone new, and that, in a way, means that these centres are always moving forward, whether or not it's big capital from us or not.
Now, when we were setting up this afternoon, a few shoppers have asked us what we're doing here. One guy said, what are you talking about? We said, the future of retail. And he sort of shrugged his shoulder and said, well, it's online, isn't it? I mean, how do you respond to that kind of comments?
Well, I look at it as online and physical coming together. Remember, 90% of all shopping does touch a store. 80% goes through a till, but another 10% might be click and collect, or people ordering at home and collecting in store. So the store is, no question, is the most important medium for retailers, and I think that will always be the same. And we look at our customers, that's the retailers, and they talk about multi-channel and omni-channel. They don't talk about online and physical. So what we've got to do is provide the physical end of it, but also provide a digital element. So here we have apps now where you can search for items and go and buy them in the stores. So we're working together. So really the message is it's the two coming together.
All right, David Atkins from Hammerson. Good luck for the rest of the Christmas run-in, and thanks for hosting this again. Now, on to our next item, which is one of the best things about Christmas adverts. And this year it's Moz the Monster and Paddington Bear. What they share is that they're both beautifully shot, memorable and emotional. But can any of us in any way live up to an idealised image of a John Lewis Christmas? And what do we think of Greg subverting the whole genre by putting in a sausage roll in a manger? Well, Mike Brooks is Senior Consultant at Brandcap, joins me now. Mike, Why do all these companies feel the need to splurge these vast sums on adverts?
Well, I think the answer to that lies in competition. So we're seeing it over recent years, especially in retail, incredibly fierce competition. So the more competition there is, the more important it is that brands are able to stand out. And of course, one of the most effective ways of doing that is a really powerful Christmas advert. So the more investment brands make, the higher quality the production of their adverts, which draws more people in. So for some, Christmas used to start with the songs over the stereo. For now, it actually begins with the adverts on TV.
Who do you think's done a good job this year?
I think the winner this year for me is a Marks & Spencer's. I think the use of Paddington, which is the first for M&S using a film franchise in their advertising, is two quintessentially British brands coming together to promote each other in a really lovely storytelling way.
And who picks up the wooden spoon for you? Who's not impressed you?
I think there's always winners and losers. Of course, we won't know the answer to that until the new year when the Christmas trading statements are released. I think some of the more traditional, bigger shopping brands always struggle to find their voice this time of year, which is why I always tell the brands I work with it's so important to invest in all the other areas of your brand so that when you do launch a big, glitzy Christmas campaign, people are ready to accept it, are ready to like it.
Tesco copped a bit of flack for having the Muslim family in their Christmas advert this year. What did you make of that?
I think it's a very difficult time politically and economically, of course, with events going on in Britain as a whole. I think when brands promote diversity, it's so important that they do it with authenticity. And I think Tesco did do a good job of that, but of course it wasn't received well by everybody.
And I mean, Greg's got in hot water as well for putting a sausage roll in a manger. Was that a good wheeze or was it a bit tasteless?
I mean, it's all subjective. Some people have loved it, others will have thought it was in bad taste, but the real answer to that lies in the results. I think the next day, Greggs sold out sausage rolls in record time, so of course for the people that it was supposed to appeal to, it worked very well.
All right, Mike Brooks, got to leave it there. Thanks for joining me. Well, still to come on Ian King Live, we'll look back at some of the big news events of 2017.
Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, the British mother being held in an Iranian jail, is eligible for early release according to her lawyer. Nazanin, who has been detained for more than 18 months, told her husband Richard that she had been informed of the news. The Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson raised her case with the Iranian president on a visit to Tehran earlier this month.
You know, it feels like the tide has turned, certainly. I think for me, my job is not to get ahead of myself, and not to get too excited until she's home. But it feels, I mean, as I say, a lot closer today than it did yesterday.
The burial site where the remains of King Richard III were found has been granted protected status. The remains of the former king were found under a Leicester City Council car park back in 2000.